Hi, I'm Christopher Warnock of Renaissance Astrology, and I want to give a short example using one of our own talismans, the Sun Divine Name Talisman, of some really deep synthesis in the creation of talismans and the designs they're used. This one uses Kabbalistic and Pythagorean elements explicitly in Renaissance Astrology. I think this is a really good example of a deep rather than a superficial syncretism. I mean, so much syncretism we see today, the New Age stuff, is at a very superficial level. People don't understand what they're working with. They kind of pull these little surface things out of it and they stick everything together, and they don't really have the deep mastery that's necessary. Or they go to the other extreme and they're like, what I call a source fascist or a stickler, if I'm in a less cranky mood. And they're like, if it's not everything in the book, then you can't do it. I mean, if you don't do 100% of what the book says, it doesn't work. And if you can't change anything in the book, you can't add anything in there, you can't do anything at all. Well, obviously this isn't the traditional method. If you look at Picatrix, Picatrix says, I consulted over 200 books to create Picatrix, and Picatrix itself is very much of a compilation, very syncretistic. Same thing with the astrological magic sources. If you look at the Greek magical papyri, you have a lot of examples of the magicians going in and saying, wow, this is super powerful from this tradition, and we'll combine it with something that's super powerful from that tradition, and we'll stick them together in our tradition, and we're going to make a powerful magic object or spell or whatever you're doing with it. So today I'm going to talk about our Sun Divine Name Talismans. We have these in bronze. I have one silver that's probably going to be sold out by the time people actually see this, but you can check out the links at the bottom of the page. Very cool, very beautiful talismans. Let me just give you a better idea of the design. Okay, this design originally comes, we've added some kind of flair to it, but the basic inside the triangle portion of it, this comes from Cornelius Agrippa's 3 Books of Occult Philosophy, Book 2, Chapter 13. Now, in Chapter 13, Agrippa is going through a long series of discussing the mystical, spiritual, and magical meanings of of numbers. So, this is really kind of an eye-opener for me. It's one of those things, I remember I was in grade school and I just could not memorize the multiplication table. I had the hardest time with that, and I've never ever been very good at math. And partly because it was presented to me as a bunch of accounting tricks. And so you got, like I said, 1 pencil plus 2 erasers equals whatever. It's all very much just sort of like, and the people that got it, they just kind of got it intuitively. And I don't know if you ever had a math teacher like that. Brilliant, and they understand all this stuff's, no problem for them, but they can't explain it because they really don't have this root understanding of what they're dealing with. And so what was incredibly useful for me as I started my, practice in the esoteric area was encountering the traditional view of number, like I said, not as just, a sequence of objects, right, and ways of manipulating objects or manipulating the material world, but as these living realities, these Platonic ideas and relationships, but really like the idea of actually being a living being and expressing these archetypal relationships. And it's funny that, the science, gets all this credit for mathematics when mathematics is super Platonic and not, quote, scientific at all. It's incredibly mystical. You think of the Pythagoreans, they're heavily into number. So the entire cosmos is based on vibration, number, music, and incredible, organized quality of music. That's one thing that's amazing to me about music. Everybody kind of intuitively, emotionally responds to music, yet you can take the same thing and you can, look at all the relationships and the notes and the scales and, the modes and things like that. Incredibly mathematically complex. At the same time, have this incredible emotional impact on us as well. So really an eye-opener for me, and its number, is incredibly important in esoteric study. And one of the books I enjoyed a lot was a book called Theology of Arithmetic. This is a tribute to Iamblichus, who was a late classical Neoplatonic philosopher. So again, he starts with 1, and he says, or the monad, and he says the monad is a non-spatial source of number. Everything has been organized by the monad because it contains everything potentially. So it's not one, like I said, one pencil and one other pencil. One is unity. It is oneness. It is the essential unification of all that appears to be in diversity is in fact a unity. And so it exists beyond number. In fact, it's the source of number. And so that's, again, we talk about Hermetic, talk about the one. And then that first step is the dyad duality. And, it's, again, not two, whatever, two beers or whatever, two cigarettes, but it's duality. It's that oppositional relationship that exists, very very concretely in our lives, but also very much as a mystical underpinning of everything. Either we think of good and evil, right? Fate and free will, mercy and strict justice. There's an incredible amount of dualities. And in fact, we seem to live in a world of us and them. That's in many ways the primal duality. We talk about the triad, 3. So the first prime. And Iamblichus says, again, the triad has a special beauty and a fairness beyond all number. You can think of the Trinity, this incredible, again, you can go on forever talking about the different qualities and the relationships so that they're indicated by these numbers. And then the tetrad, which is the 4. And again, Iamblichus says, everything in the universe turns out to be completed in the natural progression to the tetrad. So if you look back at this design, it's known, the arrangement here, you see the top 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. If you add those all up, they add all up to 10. The Tetractys is a mystical arrangement, adds up to the decad, the 10, which is unity and diversity and completeness, all contained in one mystical design. So very sacred to the Pythagoreans. They used to actually swear by it. Really very important, esoteric and powerful symbol. Not symbolic, see, in the modern sense of being like fake and indicating, but actually fully containing these things. So this is a holy symbol that contains the things it's referred to, and in fact it's a mandala in that sense. To really understand it, you have to work with it, interact with it, and really have it come to life for you. What's also really cool about this one, though, is that it also contains the Tetragrammaton, which is the 4-letter, most holy, most sacred name of God in the Kabbalistic tradition. So, say it's a Yud Hey, going from opposite to the normal, because that's how Hebrew is written. Yud Hey Vo Hey. And sometimes Yahweh, sometimes Jehovah. Again, this is not a name that was supposed to be spoken. It was so incredibly powerful. So you combine them together. You've got this incredible Pythagorean arrangement, the Tetractys, and then you've got the Tetragrammaton. So you've got incredible power combined in this one design. And so Agrippa comes along and says, wow, I'm going to include this in my explanation of 10ness, the decad. And then we saw it and said, you know what? This would be an incredibly amazing talisman to make, since it contains and connects to all these powerful things. So we've done this, made it as a sun talisman. So again, this is sort of our Pictrix method to say, you come along, you look at your sources, you see something, you say, hey, this again associated with a 10, with the sun. That's appropriate. It's got a solar quality to it. So let's go ahead and supercharge that. And we went ahead and made the bronze and silver talismans, again, making them with the sun either rising or culminating, its most powerful point, planetary hour, and if possible, planetary day of the sun, and then super dignified either by exaltation and triplicity or by sign and triplicity. So again, I think this is a really good example of how the tradition works, which is that they're by no means against synthesis and syncretization. Really what they're looking for is making sure it works. Doing it at a powerful level, at a deep level, so you have a mastery of the areas that you're trying to put together. But once you do that, once you have that deep understanding, then you can start combining them. And you can make it even more powerful. And in this case, a really beautiful mystic symbol, which has living power, then can be embodied in a talisman, and that power supercharged to an even higher level. So it's very exciting to have. these available. I really, the typically we're using designs from Picatrix, which is coming from, source of really all sorts of diverse sources. Probably pretty ancient if you look at some of the images, dating back to the Chaldeans and Babylonians. But it's also in this tradition, like I said, the Kabbalistic stuff. While I'm not a master of that, I recognize the power of it. It's again like planetary tables, the magic squares that people that are very often used, and again coming from Cornelius Agrippa and older sources. But also the Tetragrammaton, bring that Kabbalistic as well as the Pythagorean sources into it. So very exciting. I really enjoy working with this, but we have the powerful positive effects. I mean, a sun talisman is going to be great for success, for promotion, for wealth, and for health. All great effects. But the reason they're having that effects is because of that spiritual connection, that spiritual power that they embody, and also the connections here into these other traditions that, again, not just for conceptual, not just for an academic interest, they actually have real power. So if you do it properly, you're going to get an incredibly powerful talisman because you're tapping into all these different sources of spiritual power and connecting with all these incredible, powerful, and benefic spiritual beings. So again, you can check out the links there to the Sun Divine Name Talisman, but I thought it was really interesting. I was looking at these talismans and working with them. I thought, I want to do a video about this and just give a little bit of a taste into it. And also you can take a look at Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. Eric produced translation, of course, is excellent. Dive in. This is something that, Agrippa, people tend to think, well, I've seen it before. You can really never plumb the depths of 3 books of occult philosophy. Every time you read it, you're going to get something useful out of it. And it takes really a lifetime of engagement with it. And it's really an incredible, he's, again, compiled many, many sources, put them in a coherent form, and allowed us to, basically go ahead and make these incredible talismans, but also give us access to this incredible esoteric knowledge and wisdom. So check these out, check the sources, the links, and check out our Sun Divine Name Talismans.